in Melbourne, Australia. I'm super excited to be here. I'm visiting my family and my sister especially. She still lives here. I also used to live here, but I moved to Berlin a couple of years ago and now I'm here for a month and I'm also still working. And so I thought I would show you how I structure my days and how I cope with having a 10-hour time difference between Germany and me right now. And I will share later also whether I would recommend working with this time difference. So how I currently structure my days is that I work a little bit in the mornings and then I take the afternoons off and then I work again in the evenings, and that works pretty well for me. In the beginning, I didn't really manage to work in the mornings because I always had something on and I wanted to do something the whole day, and then I only managed to work in the evenings. And now a lot of work is caught up to me, so I have to do that now, work in the mornings. And yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm just getting ready and I'm gonna make myself comfy on the couch and just work for 1 or 2 hours, just get the most important things done. And then I am going to take the afternoon off and enjoy the sun a little bit. So it's 6:30 p.m. in Australia and I'm starting my workday. Okay, so before we dive into the video, and I'm going to share some tips on how to cope with a 10-hour time difference if you do find yourself in that situation, I just want to say that please don't glamorize this work from anywhere lifestyle, and please don't think that this is a sustainable way of living long term, because it does require you to change your work rhythm quite a bit, especially if you're someone who has a lot of meetings and you have to communicate with people. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, and that's why I want to share these tips in this video and share some of my experiences. And also, so the reason why I'm doing this, living this sort of lifestyle for a month, is because I'm visiting family in Australia, and normally I live in Berlin, which is literally on the opposite side of the world, and I haven't seen my family in 2 years, and that's why I decided to make this trip. But I didn't want to just do a pure holiday for a month, because I still have, clients to work with, and there's deadlines, and obviously I also need to sustain myself while I'm on this trip. And so that's why I decided to take on this challenge of working with such a big time difference. The other thing I want to point out is that it might not work for everyone, and I'm in the very lucky position that I don't work full-time, so I actually work part-time. So this is a big disclaimer. I have the luxury of not having to work hours and hours into the night or hours and hours throughout the day. So I can split up my part-time work throughout a 5-day work week, which is what I'm currently doing. And that way I'm coping much better than someone probably who has to work full-time. But anyway, that doesn't mean it's not possible. It definitely is. And that's why I'm going to share some tips with you now. So tip number 1, try to get a whole chunk of work done when you're most productive. So personally for me, that's in the mornings. I work best there. I concentrate best in the mornings. And so that's why I think it's best to focus for 2 hours in the morning right after breakfast and already get some stuff done, get yourself organized. So then when it comes down to later in the day, when you might have meetings, you've already been productive, and then you can take kind of the day off. So have the afternoon off and just enjoy it. And I think that's the best way to go about it. I didn't do that the whole time though. So in the beginning, just was so excited to see my family. I was already had plans throughout the whole day. And then I blocked out kind of from the afternoons onwards, from 4 p.m. till, around 9 p.m. For meetings and for work. And I started that work at 4 p.m. in the afternoon when my brain was not working anymore. And I really regret doing that in the first 3 weeks actually. And now this week I'm doing it much differently and it's working a lot better. So I would definitely recommend that to anyone who is working with a big time difference. Tip number 2, try to find a way to not think about your upcoming meetings throughout your day. So that's something that happened to me early in my time in Australia, was that I knew that I had meetings from around 6:30 p.m. onwards for a couple of hours. And I would literally just keep them in the back of my mind all day long. And I would kind of not dread it, but I would just know that I still had something on to do. And that kind of bugged me a little bit. And so now I try to find a way to just ignore that, or at least block that out of my brain and just enjoy the time that I have off, because otherwise I'm thinking about work literally all day until the late hours of the evening. That's something that has been quite difficult for me. So if you can, maybe just write it down. Make sure, a big thing is just being organized for your meetings already. So writing down all of the important things early in the morning so that it's out of your head and you know you've got everything sorted. So when you do sit down and have your meetings, it's organized and you don't have to think about them all day long. So tip number 3, the other thing I started to do was I needed to get really organized and focus on the things that I actually had to do. So this trip really forced me to get a lot more clear on my priorities, even at work as well, because I did want to spend more time with my family, and so I did want to be more productive at work, so I had to put in less hours to still get the same amount of work done. And oftentimes at work you kind of find yourself some tasks that are not really going to move anything forward and not really going to make an impact, that don't really have to be done right now, but you still do them anyway just to fill the time. But when you are away and you're working with such a big time difference, you really you want to think about how can I minimize that work and really do the most important things and prioritize accordingly. And so that's what I started doing. I basically stripped away all the things that I don't have to do and that are just kind of extras, and just did the things that really were important and that were going to move the needle in projects and in work. That way, I actually had more time and more free time to spend with my family and some friends. Tip number 4 is to ask people if they can record meetings for you. So for me, I was in a situation that I missed a couple of pretty important strategy meetings, and they were in the middle of the night, and I actually didn't want to get up for those meetings because I still wanted to have a normal sort of schedule. I know for some people, if you're in certain positions, you have to go to those meetings and there's no other option. But luckily, I'm not in such a high up position that I'm leading those meetings, and so I just had to be in those meetings and listen to what they were saying. It was company updates and kind of direction and strategy. And so I asked someone if they could record that meeting for me and then just send it to me afterwards so I could then listen to it throughout my day later on. And that really worked well, and I was able to catch up, and I was really focused when I watched that meeting later the next day. The other thing also, if you're a person who has a lot of meetings, try and shift your meetings around a little bit if you can. So say you normally have an update meeting at your time, 8 p.m., a daily update meeting. For me, that's our developer daily, where we catch up with developers and they can ask me questions, I can ask them questions. And we decided together that we would actually shift this meeting to a bit early in the day, so early in my day, early in their day, so around 6 p.m. my time. So then that would give us an additional 2 hours to have for updates and questions and things like that. Because then, if it's already at 8 p.m., then it's pretty late for me, and then that only then gives me a few hours to respond to questions and comments. And if we have it earlier, it just allows for more time for communication. So ask your team if it's possible. Of course, if you already normally have your meetings early on, it might not be necessary, but just ask if there's a way to shift around your normal meetings a little bit during the time that you're away or that you have this huge 10-hour time difference. Tip number, what are we at? Up to, I think 5 or 6. Find a way to communicate with everyone. So make sure you communicate that you have this big time difference with everyone else, so they know and they're not wondering why they're getting messages at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night. Just let them know that you're on a different time schedule than them, and that will also put hopefully less pressure on them, and also will let them know when you will be available and when they can expect a response from you. And also just communicate your needs, and say someone wants to schedule a meeting at 10 p.m. but you kind of want to go to bed at 10 p.m., maybe find a way to schedule it earlier. Of course, this is not always possible. I totally understand that, but just try to do that wherever you can. And that kind of plays into tip number 7, is to also make sure that you set yourself some boundaries and you don't stay up super, super late if you don't have to. So I would say, set yourself some work time still. So, okay, I'm going to be on my laptop from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m., answer questions, and then I'm going to shut it and I won't answer to any more questions, even if they come in, and I'm going to communicate that to the rest of my team as well. And then maybe have another time, like early in the morning, your time, where you respond to messages for 1 to 2 hours, or you do some deep work. And that way you really set yourself some working times, and you don't just drag your work out throughout the whole day and just respond whenever something comes in, or you don't do meetings super, super, super late. And that just makes sure that you keep your sanity and you still have some fun, because otherwise what's the point of being away with this 10-hour time difference if you're just having more stress than normal at work? So I think those things are my top tips that I would tell someone if they had this huge time difference, and that I would probably focus more on even earlier. So I only learned this throughout the past 2 to 3 weeks that I've been away. And in the beginning, I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and it was actually a little bit difficult. But now I feel like I'm getting used to it, but I'm also at the same time getting over it. So I'm actually excited to have this normal time schedule again of, waking up and normally and starting work with everyone else. To wrap this up, I would say I don't think that this is a long-term thing, that you should do this like super long-term, especially if you have time differences of, 6 hours upwards. It can work for some people, like if you're really a night owl and you work well at night, it might work for you really well. Or if your nature of work is a little bit different, where you don't have to have meetings all the time and communicate with people all the time, say you're, a writer or something, and you just have to write an article and then get some feedback. But I would say in most cases, it is not super sustainable, and it is better to work with less of a time difference and just be wherever your team or your colleagues are and your company is located, or at least within a few hours within that time zone. So that's all I wanted to share today. I hope some of these tips have been helpful for you. And also let me know what else you'd like to hear from me, what other things around maybe work and lifestyle, personal development are interesting for you. Let me know in the comments below. And that is all. I'm going to enjoy my day now before I have some meetings in the evening, and might go to the beach, and I'll insert some snippets of Melbourne and some of the things that I've been up to, because it's just a beautiful country here. And enjoy your day, and I will see you in the next video.